Okay, I've been asked to do a little bit of a review on these ice stopper bobbers that I use that others use, but I haven't seen them explain too much about them, and a lot of people are curious, so I thought I would do a little walkthrough on how I use them and give you a little information if you wanted to try them out. Now, ordering these, I'll put a link in the description through Amazon, but I recommend that you look around for the manufacturer sites and try to get things a little less expensive directly from the manufacturer whenever possible, and who needs to give Amazon more money anyway. These are a great example. As you can see, it's a lot cheaper to try and get them somewhere else. Now, I did pay a lot more in shipping than I would from Amazon, so you do have to take that into account and go with the cheapest of the two you can find, but I would definitely try to shop around. This one I ordered from Dick Smith's Bait and Tackle online. Now, the way these work is they come in three parts. There's the top, there's the insert, and there's the bottom. Now you can see the bottom has this little tiny hole and the top is open, but there's a little hole in the insert. And this is a really good thing to do because when it comes to feeding them on the line, it makes it a lot easier. You take your line and you feed it through the top, and then you take and feed it through your insert through the tiny hole, which is easier to do with the insert being removable, and it clicks into the top like so. Okay, and then this is the hard part. The hole in the bottom of these is very small for a very small diameter line, and to get it through you have to do some careful stabbing with a fairly straight line until you get it to come through, which was really easy, but it's usually a lot harder than that, and there's really no other way to do it. I kind of wish they would take and do a section here where it would unscrew with an O-ring or something so that you could feed it through easier and then put it together kind of like the top. But this is the reservoir, and it does have to be watertight except for the hole in the bottom so that the fluid stays in it. Once you get this far, hang on to this thing. Don't let it slide off after you fought so hard to get it together. They give you some of this Ice Stop non-toxic fishing line de-icer antifreeze that you'll squirt into the reservoir and fill it, and then click it shut like so, and then the line will run through the antifreeze and it will keep the line from freezing in the hole, whereas around the bobber it will freeze solid in place, but the line will run through it. And the cool thing about the antifreeze is it will run up the line as you run the line through it and coat the line, so you get water or ice on the line, it won't stay, it won't jam up. It's the only bobber I've seen that does that. There are other ice stopper bobbers that are made from foam, which work good for shedding ice, but they don't coat the line, they don't keep them as ice free as these do, and they would freeze in the hole and they don't have a hole through them, so they're kind of a trick. But these are the best ones I've seen to use. Now I will mention, they'll send you this clear antifreeze and you'll run out, but instead of ordering some more of it, here's a tip. Just go down to your auto parts store, get some RV antifreeze that protects to -50, and don't spend a lot of money getting the non-glycerin formula. In fact, you kind of want the glycerin formula because it's a little thicker and it won't run out of the end of the bobber as quickly. You won't have to refill it as often. So the cheaper stuff is better in this case. And this is the non-toxic stuff that they put in water lines for RVs that humans drink. It doesn't hurt the environment, so it's the stuff to use. Don't use a regular automotive antifreeze. Don't use that stuff. That's toxic. Okay, now the next thing I do to hook these up is I use a bobber stop, and the particular type that I use are these little rubber dills that fit on a button. They have these little wires that run through them, and the way they work is you put the line through the loop in the wire, okay, and then you pull the bobber stop onto the line until it is on the line like so, okay, and it slides and stays anywhere you want to put it. Now the reason I put this on the bottom of the line is it will stop and plug off the end of the bobber so that your fluid doesn't leak out while it's hanging out of the water like so. Now I'm going to show you this on the pole and exactly what I do with it from that point on. I typically run bait on these, and for doing that setup, a lot of people like to use a flashy tractor spoon or something for a weight. I like to use a swivel with a split shot pinched on. Simple, it gets it down quickly. You really want to get down quickly with the bait, because if you miss a fish and you're pulling it up and putting it back down, sometimes he'll still be there and he'll bite again, but only if you get it down quickly. And you've got to have a weight to do that. I don't like using the attractors because spoons and things, they may work a little bit better for attracting, but I find, especially with jaw jackers, you just get tangles and messes, and a split shot doesn't do that. Additionally, for using bait, I usually use a very, very small treble hook, 14 or even smaller, but I actually use hooks that I strip off of Rapalas when I'm jaw jacking, because they have a wider shank on them, and the fish are not going to take these into their belly. The jaw jacker is going to trigger immediately, and it's going to hook them in the mouth every time, and a wider hook hooks better. And if it's not going to be more mortal for the fish, then that's what I want to use. So your setup will look something like this, with the hook about, maybe 16 inches below the bobber. Another thing I like to do is I like to sometimes put another bobber stop on above the bobber. Reason being, you're fishing in 20 feet of water, and let's say the fish are 5 feet off the bottom, and you get it right where you want it. Well, every time you have to find that depth. But you can slide this to wherever you end up being at the depth you want to be, and the second you see that, you know you're there and you're fishing. So it's kind of a cool idea for that. And they can reel up on the reel pretty well without any problem, so they don't impede your reeling. One last thing I will mention, the holes on the bottoms of these are very, very tight for your line, and they need to be. If you're using a line heavier than 6 pound, you're probably going to have to take a needle or something and just gently widen that hole a little bit. What that means is you can't use a smaller line in it again, or your fluid will just come right out. So you have to mark it large or something for whatever line you're going to use, so that you don't lose all your fluid while you're fishing. So that's just some tips. I will put a link in the description to an Amazon link for these, but I would recommend shopping around for them somewhere else. I can't imagine fishing without these outside of the tent. When the wind's filling the holes up with snow or they're icing over, you do not miss a fish with these. They're fantastic for not freezing up. So I would really, really recommend them for that sort of fishing.